She doesn't wake up to check her phone, she wakes up to check in with herself. A high-value woman doesn't roll out of bed. She rises like royalty, like fire, like a storm in slow motion. And if you think being high value is about money, makeup, or men, darling, you're playing the wrong game. You want to be unforgettable? It starts the moment your feet hit the floor. These 5 habits aren't cute routines. They're daily rituals that build an empire, starting with you. Before the buzz of messages, before the chaos of alarms, before the world has a chance to interrupt her, she pauses. She breathes. She chooses herself. That's not just a habit. That's a mindset. A revolution. A woman who chooses to greet herself before anything or anyone else is a woman who refuses to be run by the world. Most people wake up in panic, grabbing their phones, scrolling through problems that aren't even theirs yet. Texts, emails, notifications. Before they've even had a sip of water, they've consumed 100 voices, not one of them their own. And that's exactly how they lose themselves. In pixels, in pressure, in everyone else's life. But a high-value woman, she's different. She doesn't rush to check what the world wants from her. She takes a moment to ask, what do I need from me today? That question alone separates the queens from the crowd. She opens her eyes and meets herself in silence. In stillness, she places her hand over her heart, not to be dramatic, but to feel that she's alive, and to remind herself, this heartbeat, this breath, this body, it belongs to me. Before it belongs to any deadline, any man, any demand. Take the example of a mother who barely gets 5 hours of sleep, juggling her kids, her job, and her home. Most would say she doesn't have time for herself. But the high value common, they claim their mornings. Because they understand one thing the average person doesn't. If you don't direct your energy, it'll be drained by default. The world will always be loud. People will always want something from you. But before you respond to any of it, respond to yourself. Meet your eyes in the mirror and speak life. Look at that reflection and say, I see you. I choose you. I'm building something with you. You are the light. You are the sunshine. You are the softness. You are the selfishness. 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 That kind of self-love isn't fluffy. It's fierce. Remember the girl who used to wake up checking if he texted? Not anymore. Now, she checks in to see how she feels, because the woman who greets herself first no longer begs for attention. She attracts it. She doesn't live in reaction. She lives in intention. And it doesn't matter where she is. A messy apartment, a luxury hotel, a shared dorm room. She creates sacred space in her mind. And that space becomes her power. You know why this habit is so rare? Because it requires bravery. It requires facing yourself before you face the day. And most people are afraid of what they'll see. But the high-value woman isn't. She knows her worth isn't found in the world's reaction. It's built in her own recognition. So when she rises in stillness, in softness, in power. She doesn't greet chaos. She greets her own soul. And the world? It can wait. She moves her body like it's sacred. Not for the scale, not for a summer dress, not for the gaze of someone who doesn't even deserve her energy. She moves her body because it is hers, her temple, her home, her only permanent address in this life. And when a high-value woman rises in the morning, she doesn't just exist in that body, she honors it. She doesn't punish it for yesterday's choices. She doesn't shame it for how it looks, she celebrates it. She connects with it. She activates it like a queen ready to walk through her kingdom. The world taught women to look at their bodies with judgment. She doesn't buy into that lie anymore. While others step on a scale, hoping to feel worthy, she steps into the morning with intention, knowing her worth isn't measured in pounds. It's measured in presence. She doesn't always hit the gym. Some days, she just rolls out a mat in the corner of her room, lights a candle, and stretches like she's unfolding her strength. To an outsider, it looks like a quiet routine. But inside her, it's a sacred rebellion. Every stretch whispers, "You are here. You are whole. You are worthy now." Think about the woman who works a 9 to 5, barely makes it home before sunset. She's exhausted, burnt out. But she carves out 15 minutes in the morning to walk. Not on her phone, not with music blasting, just her, the air, the rhythm of her breath, the sunglasses on her back, the empty nights to blasting, and then the lights go out. The sun goes down. Not because she can't go any farther, but it's too dark to figure out where it is. That walk, about calories, it's about clarity. It's her walking back to herself. Or picture the single mother who hasn't had a moment of peace in weeks. Kids crying, deadlines looming. But in the early light, before the world pulls at her, she puts on a song that makes her feel alive. She dances, alone, unapologetically. No performance, just power. That movement says, "This is my body, and I don't owe anyone stillness if it costs me my job." Even the entrepreneur who travels constantly, living out of suitcases and airports, she doesn't miss her movement. She finds 5 feet of space and does a short yoga flow. Because to her, motion is not about maintenance, it's about mastery. Her body is a tool, and she sharpens it daily. She doesn't wait for motivation. She moves even when she doesn't feel like it. Because she knows discipline is the language of self-love. Every step, every stretch, every breath is a message to herself. You matter enough to be cared for. You matter enough to be moved. This isn't about fitness. It's about frequency, about realigning her energy. You ever notice how your mind clears when your body moves? That's not coincidence. That's connection. That's how a high-value woman creates emotional resilience through physical rituals. She doesn't chase a body type. She cultivates a body relationship. The kind where she listens to her hunger, respects her rest, and praises her pulse. She doesn't see cellulite, she sees a story. She doesn't resent her curves, she owns them. She walks like every step is a reminder that she's survived another day and she's still rising. Even when the mirror lies, even when society screams that she should look a certain way, she moves anyway. Because movement is her meditation, her empowerment, her choice. There are days she lifts heavy. Days she runs. Days she just lays on her back and breathes into every inch of her being. But whatever the form, the ritual is sacred. It's not for anyone to like. It's not for anyone to validate. Her movement is a ceremony. Her body is not a project. It's a masterpiece in progress. And every morning she chooses to move. She's not just building strength. She's building self-respect. She says no to chaos, yes to clarity. Before the noise creeps in, before the world starts screaming for her attention, she draws a line, a boundary, a decision. A high-value woman doesn't wake up and fall into her day. She commands it. She doesn't let chaos control her. She chooses clarity. She doesn't chase every notification. She doesn't entertain every message. She doesn't respond to drama before she responds to herself. Because she knows this one truth. If you don't protect your peace, someone else will profit from your panic. She opens her eyes, and instead of being pulled by urgency, she creates a moment of intention. A moment of deep breath, of silence, of vision. And that moment is not small. It's powerful. It's how she builds a fortress in her mind before stepping into the battlefield of life. Think of the woman who used to be addicted to chaos, always overcommitting, always pleasing, always saying yes because she was afraid to disappoint. But now she pauses. Now she looks at her schedule and asks, does this align with who I want to be? If the answer is no, it's a no. Not because she's selfish, but because she's self-respecting. Or the girl who used to let toxic texts ruin her entire day. One rude message and her mind would spiral. But today, she turns her phone face down. She lights a candle. She journals. She chooses to pour into herself first, before letting the world sip from her soul. She reminds herself, my peace is not up for auction. Even the corporate leader with back-to-back meetings doesn't just get out of bed and sprint into work mode. She starts her morning with clarity. She looks at her priorities, not just her tasks. She sets her tone before the world sets her pace. Because being busy is not the same as being aligned. She doesn't live in reaction. She leads with intention. She says no to people who drain her energy. Not with anger, not with guilt. With grace. With confidence. With a simple, that doesn't work for me right now. Because she's learned every yes to someone else is a no to herself. And she will no longer betray her peace to please people who wouldn't notice her burnout. You know what's rare? A woman who can sit in silence and not feel uncomfortable. A woman who doesn't need background noise to distract her from her thoughts. That's power, that's clarity, that's discipline. She creates space between her triggers and her choices. That's emotional maturity. That's queen energy. She wakes up and doesn't ask, what do I have to do? She asks, what do I want to feel today? Who do I want to be today? And from that intention, her whole day is designed. She deletes apps if they create noise. She stops checking 5 platforms before breakfast. She closes mental tabs that don't serve her goals. Chaos is addictive. It gives the illusion of importance, but clarity gives you power. The kind of power that isn't loud, but unshakable. The kind that doesn't panic when plans change. The kind that doesn't beg for external validation because it's rooted internally. And even when life throws storms, she grounds herself. She doesn't allow panic to lead her decisions. She takes a pause, a breath, a step back. Because reacting is easy, but responding with clarity, that's mastery. Woman who dresses like she matters is the woman who gets treated like she does. She's not being superficial, she's being strategic. She knows when you look powerful, you feel powerful. And when you feel powerful, you walk into rooms differently. Take the girl who used to throw on anything and rush out the door because she thought no one will notice me anyway. But one day she stopped. She asked herself, what if I dressed like I had a purpose? So she did. That day she wore her blazer like armor, not because of the label, but because of the mindset. Suddenly people looked at her differently, not because her clothes changed, but because her energy did. When I respect myself, the world mirrors it. Think of the woman who works from home. No meetings, no one to impress, but she still puts on red lipstick and irons her outfit. Because her dream doesn't live in the future. It lives in how she shows up today. She says, I don't need a reason to dress well. My reason is me. Even the mother running errands with kids in tow, she doesn't have to wear heels or designer tags. But she throws on that scarf, fixes her posture, lifts her chin. Because her reflection matters to her. She doesn't dress for the world's permission. She dresses like she already owns her next chapter. And that doesn't mean expensive wardrobes or perfect looks. It means intention, confidence. Dressing like she's walking into the role she was born for. She understands that how you present yourself to the world is a signal, not just to others, but to your own subconscious. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not apologizing for taking up space. I'm showing up like the woman I promised myself I'd become. You know what happens when you dress like your dreams are watching? You stop shrinking. You stop playing small. You stop saying one day and start living like it's today. You walk past the mirror and don't flinch. You smile. You say, she looks like she means business. There's power in putting yourself together, even when no one sees it, especially when no one sees it. Because that's when you know it's real. You're not performing, you're aligning. You're telling the universe, I'm ready. I already believe it's mine. And yes, some mornings she feels tired. Some days she wants to hide. But even then, she pulls herself up and says, not today. Today I will show up for her, for the woman I'm building. Because when you carry your dream in your heart, it starts showing up in your eyes and in your clothes. She doesn't wait for the opportunity to knock. She dresses like it's already on its way. Because she knows the woman who looks like she belongs starts to believe she does. She speaks to herself like a queen, not a critic. Because a high-value woman knows the most dangerous voice isn't out there. It's the one in her own mind. That voice can build empires or burn them to the ground. And she made a decision. No more self-sabotage disguised as self-awareness. She chose to become her biggest cheerleader, not her harshest judge. She doesn't stand in front of the mirror and pick herself apart. She doesn't say, look at those thighs, or why am I still not enough? No. She says, this body has carried me through storms. This face tells a story of resilience. I may not be flawless, but I'm fierce. And that switch from self-criticism to self-respect transforms everything. Think of the woman who used to wake up and list everything wrong with her. The one who would replay every mistake, every awkward moment, every failed attempt like a broken record. But now, she looks at herself in the mirror every morning and says, "You're doing your best. You're growing. You're allowed to fall, but you will always rise." Because a queen isn't born confident. She becomes confident every time she chooses grace over guilt. Take the young girl in college, struggling with grades, relationships, identity. Her inner voice used to whisper, "You're not smart enough, not pretty enough, not worthy enough." And by the way, this is a very, very sad story. You're not smart enough, not pretty enough. But she caught that voice one day, challenged it, rewrote it. Now she says, "I'm a work in progress, and that is powerful. My effort is enough. My heart is gold." And from that moment, she started walking with her head higher, not because her life changed, but because her inner narrative did. Even the CEO in the glass tower has her days. Days where she doubts. Days where she messes up. But she doesn't tear herself down. She pauses, breathes, and says, "I'm allowed to be human. I'm still a force. One mistake doesn't define me. My comeback will." Because she knows this truth. When the voice inside you becomes loving, the world outside you becomes less intimidating. She rewires her brain every single day with words, not fake affirmations, truthful reminders. You are capable. You've survived worse. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to keep going. These aren't just feel-good phrases. These are survival tools, warrior whispers, queen energy. She knows that speaking kindly to yourself isn't vanity, it's strategy. The way you speak to yourself is the way you train your nervous system. If you scream at yourself in your mind, your body will panic. But if you speak gently, with power and grace, you stay grounded. Even in chaos, even in heartbreak, she speaks life into herself. When someone leaves her, betrays her, tries to break her, she doesn't collapse. She places a hand over her heart and says, "I still have me, and I will not let someone's rejection make me forget my worth." Or that single mother juggling a million roles, exhausted, overwhelmed. It would be easy to say, "I'm failing," but she doesn't. She whispers, "I'm doing the impossible. I'm holding a family together. I am strong. I am sacred. I am enough." And that whisper becomes a battle cry. Because self-love isn't soft. It's strong. It's standing tall when your past screams shame and saying, "Not today. Today I choose love. Today I choose royalty." She no longer entertains the cruel voice of her inner critic. She doesn't dim her light to make others comfortable. She doesn't apologize for her growth. She doesn't ask for permission to feel proud of herself. She knows that if she wouldn't say it to a friend, she won't say it to herself. She speaks life. She speaks strength. She speaks possibility. And slowly, with every kind word, she becomes the woman she once needed. The queen, the warrior, the voice she was missing. She owns her boundaries before the day begins. Because a high-value woman doesn't let the world decide how she will be treated. She decides that for herself. The moment she wakes up, before any texts, emails, or demands flood in, she reclaims her time, her energy, her peace. She doesn't start her day by checking how the world feels about her. She starts it by checking in with herself. Because the woman who sets the tone for her day sets the standard for her life. She doesn't wait for someone to cross the line to draw one. Her boundaries are not reactive, they're intentional. They are not walls to isolate, they are gates that protect the kingdom she's building. She knows that protecting her peace is not selfish, it's sacred. It's the only way she can pour into others without draining herself dry. Think about the woman who used to say yes to everything. Yes to early meetings. Yes to last-minute favors. Yes to conversations that left her feeling empty. Until one morning, she looked at her tired eyes in the mirror and whispered, "You don't owe everyone your time just because they asked for it." That morning, she chose differently. She created space between the ask and the answer. She gave herself permission to say, "Not today. Not like this." A woman who owns her boundaries doesn't apologize for needing space. She doesn't shrink to fit into others' expectations. She no longer plays the role of the nice girl who's reactive. They're intentional. They are not walls to isolate. They are gates that protect the kingdom she's building. She knows that protecting her peace is not selfish, it's sacred. It's the only way she can pour into others without draining herself dry. Think about the woman who used to say yes to everything. Yes to early meetings. Yes to last-minute favors. Yes to conversations that left her feeling empty. Until one morning, she looked at her tired eyes in the mirror and whispered, "You don't owe everyone your time just because they asked for it." That morning, she chose differently. She created space between the ask and the answer. She gave herself permission to say, "Not today. Not like this." A woman who owns her boundaries doesn't apologize for needing space. She doesn't shrink to fit into others' expectations. She no longer plays the role of the nice girl who always puts herself last. She understands that being a queen means knowing what is hers to carry and what is not. She doesn't entertain emotional dumping at 7 a.m. She doesn't reply to toxic messages before her coffee. She doesn't let the chaos of someone else's storm destroy the calm in her soul. Take the young artist working toward her dream. People used to pull her in every direction. "Can you help with this? Can you take a quick call? Can you change your plans?" And every time she said yes, her dream fell further behind. Until she learned to protect her morning hours like sacred gold. Now she wakes up and says, "These hours are mine, for my growth, for my purpose, for my passion." And by noon, she's already poured into her dream before anyone else drains her energy. Even the stay-at-home mom, balancing everyone's needs, kids, partner, household. She used to wake up and immediately dive into fixing breakfasts, cleaning messes, replying to school emails, until she carved out 20 minutes just for her. Journal, tea, silence. She looked in the mirror and said, "If I give myself nothing, how can I offer anything?" That simple boundary, those 20 quiet minutes, shifted her whole being. Owning her boundaries means she knows who she is before the world tries to tell her. She doesn't let a bad text ruin her spirit. She doesn't let a negative comment define her value. She doesn't let guilt manipulate her into breaking her own rules. She wakes up already clear on her non-negotiables, her peace, her time, her worth. She also knows boundaries are not just about others, they're about her. She holds herself accountable. She doesn't scroll endlessly before sunrise. She doesn't let procrastination rob her purpose. She doesn't entertain thoughts that make her feel small before the sun even rises. She speaks over her day with authority. "I will not abandon myself today. I will not be available to everything and loyal to nothing." She doesn't wait until burnout hits. She doesn't wait until resentment builds. She checks in every morning, places her hand over her heart, and reminds herself, you don't have to be everything for everyone. Just be everything for you. Because she understands, when you own your boundaries, you own your life. When you own your mornings, you don't have to recover from your days. When you guard your energy guards your purpose. And when you start your day with clarity, the world starts responding to you differently. Let me tell you this. Your morning is not just a routine. It's your rise. It's the rehearsal of your greatness before the world even gets a glimpse of you. A high-value woman does not just wake up, she ascends. Before the sun even stretches its arms, she's already decided who she is, how she'll be treated, and where her energy will flow. This isn't about being perfect. This is about being powerful. She doesn't wake up to chase validation. She wakes up to claim dominion. Because she knows that the world will always try to define her, but only she gets to decide who she becomes. If you don't run your morning will run you. And eventually your life will reflect someone else's choices. But the woman who owns her mornings owns her destiny. She doesn't get ready to impress. Her spirit, her standard, her story. Because the dream isn't out there. It begins the moment she decides, I was not born to survive, I was born to shine. When the world says, you're too much, she smiles and whispers, I was never meant to be less. When life throws her into the fire, she becomes the flame. And when others beg her to blend in, she builds her own color palette and becomes the masterpiece. She greets herself before she greets the world, because she understands you can't serve others from a cup you haven't filled. She moves her body like it's sacred, because she knows it's not about perfection, it's about presence. She says no to chaos and yes to clarity, because peace is her priority, not popularity. She dresses like her dreams are watching, because she refuses to shrink for comfort. Dresses to command the room without saying a word. She speaks to herself like a queen, not a critic, because she knows the voice within shapes the life she lives. And she owns her boundaries before the day begins, because she is not just protecting her time, she is protecting her divine. You want to be high value? It starts in the moments no one sees. It's in how you carry yourself before the cameras are on. It's in the discipline to get up even when no one's clapping. It's in the grace you give yourself when the world gives you none. Remember this. Confidence is not walking into a room thinking you're better than everyone. It's walking in and not needing to compare at all. It's looking in the mirror and saying, I may not have it all, but I have me, and that's more than enough. Some women wake up to alarms, others wake up to purpose. Some chase attention, others attract it by alignment, and some survive the day. But queens, they command it. So from this day forward, ask yourself every morning, am I rising for me or am I rising for them? Because you weren't made to blend into chaos. You were designed to lead with grace. You weren't born to be confused and tired. You were born to be focused, fierce, and free. You don't need permission to become powerful. You don't need applause to validate your worth. You don't need to shrink so others feel big. Your mornings are your throne. Sit on it like you belong. Your habits are your armor. Wear them like you are at war for your peace. Because you were born to be confused. and tired. You don't need to be perfect. Your choices are your crown. Adjust it and walk like the woman you were born to be. Because the truth is, the world doesn't need more perfect women. It needs more awake ones, more aware ones, more ruthless with their self-love and relentless with their dreams. So rise with intention, move with royalty, and every morning remind the world, the Queen has risen, and she's not waiting for anyone to hand her the crown. She built her own. And see her, the Queen has risen, and she's not waiting for anyone to hand her the crown. She built her own version of her. She wakes up 10 minutes earlier, not for chores, but for connection. She sits with her tea in silence, soaking in that moment like it's her sanctuary. She doesn't open Instagram, she opens her presence. Because she knows if she doesn't anchor herself early, the storm of the day will sweep her away. Or think of a student drowning in pressure, feeling unseen, constantly trying to meet everyone's expectations. The high-value version of her doesn't jump into her books right after waking up. She writes 3 lines to herself every morning. I am enough. I am learning. I am powerful even when I'm still. That simple ritual isn't weakness, it's a weapon. She's programming her mind before the world gets a chance to program it for her. Even the most successful women, CEOs, athletes, creatives, they all have this one habit in.